Welcome, everybody, to episode 21 of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards. Joining me today, we have the original man from Japan.
Stephen Meyerink, I'm Taylor on the boards.
We have the man who's hopefully going to Japan.
This is Zachary Pintchik, super flat on the boards.
We have the man who I think loves Dragon Age 2 or hates Dragon Age 2.
I don't know if you're talking to me or Kyle.
I know, that's the part.
This is John McCarroll. I'm Keeper X on the board. I really enjoy Dragon Age 2. I think that it's a bad BioWare game, though.
Ooh, and then we have the man who's going to be reviewing the PC version of Dragon Age 2 for us.
Yes, Kyle E. Miller. It's pretty much the same on the boards.
All right, so of course we're going to talk about Dragon Age 2. We're going to talk about a certain game that I started playing, Heavy Rain, and then I'm sorry, I always
and
think
it is
that,
gonna rain.
I always think that
Rob.
whenever Heavy Rain. So we're going to talk about Heavy Rain. We have Dissidia duodecim.
I don't even know what the title is.
Okay, thank God.
I'm playing it.
Okay. And then Zach's going to tell us a little bit about PAX East, and then we have news to talk about. Firstly, I think I speak for everybody on the podcast when we want to say that our hearts are going out to Japan over the massive earthquake and tsunami that happened last week. Anything that people can do, donations to the Red Cross, definitely put stuff out there to help these people that are really going through a bad time. But, you know, we're all supportive. We have friends over there, and, you know, hearts definitely go out to them for what's going on over there. So it's great to see governments working together to try to help people out in a really bad situation. So that's the serious part of the show. So
Well stated.
I just throwing it out there. So let's start talking about some fun games. So Dragon Age 2, the big debate. The internet is seething. We have BioWare on one side reviewing their own game and saying it's awesome.
Oh, right, that.
Say, quick aside, having dealt with this sort of thing, I can say I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I can say with at least some certainty that based on the fact that it was an engineer that posted that and not any kind of marketing person, not any kind of public relations person, he was probably like, I'm angry.
Yeah. Oh, justifiably
I'm not bad.
Justifiably so. And he has a right
the
to
game is
defend
by
his
no
product.
means bad.
Yeah. Should he have done it?
No.
No.
Does he have a right to defend his product? Yeah. Definitely does. And I think that right now we're seeing something very interesting with Dragon Age 2, which is you basically have three camps, as Mitch Hedberg would say. You have the people that love it, and you have the people that hate it, and the people that think it's okay.
What the hell is it?
And then you have the people that think it's okay. And so, John, your review was, I thought, very well stated. This is not me kissing your butt. I thought you had a really fun, interesting review of the game. You reviewed it for what it is. So tell us a little bit about what you thought about Dragon Age 2.
So let me be completely honest with everyone. One of the reasons that I didn't do a direct comparison to Dragon Age Origins is despite the fact that I have both that and the expansion pack sitting on top of my PC, I only played about 10 hours of it. And I played the sequel on the Xbox 360, so I don't have an even experience there to directly compare the two titles. That being said, Dragon Age 2, for me, feels a lot like Jade Empire, where it's a BioWare game, and it's got a solid core because it is a BioWare game, but it's a bad BioWare game.
But when you say bad BioWare game, you don't mean bad game. You just mean slightly disappointing for BioWare.
That's exactly right, because you compare this to let's take Rise of the Argonauts, which is a bad Mass Effect clone, which is a lot of people's like, oh man, this is Dragon Effect. It's not. If you want to play Dragon Effect and you want to play a bad Dragon Effect, go play Rise of the Argonauts. I think Kyle actually reviewed that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It was funny.
It's just this kind of bad game that pretends to be a BioWare game, whereas a bad BioWare game from any other company would be a good game.
Yeah, and so you had fun with it. I think that you were one of the first reviews that really – you came out right at embargo, so you were one of the first reviews that talked about some of the game's shortcomings, things that I've seen. I've played the PC version for total transparency. Played the game on PC. I finished it about 30 hours, so I came in just where John said I was going to in terms of gameplay. I think I did pretty much all the side quests. And John pointed out the biggest problems that I had with the game, which was the repeating environments, the small world environment. For people that still don't know, Dragon Age does the Mass Effect 1 thing where there's lots and lots of quests, lots and lots of things to do in the city of Kirkwall, but they all pretty much revolve around the mansion, the cave, the docks. Am I missing anyone?
Well, when you get the DLC, there's the ruins.
Oh, the ruins. The ruins.
It's a mansion, cave, warehouse, and sewer.
Yes.
Now don't forget though. Sometimes they connect, so you'll go into the mansion and then you'll go into the basement, which leads to the sewer, which goes to the ruins.
Right, and it's the same map, but you'll get different pieces of it. Each one is a fairly large map, and BioWare tries to pull the wool over your eyes and close off certain passageways, but you're pretty much playing in the same environments over and over again.
The thing for me is I navigate via the mini. Here, I'm going to start that. Have that in there.
Take a shot.
What was that?
That was them going close to, but here's the thing. Despite the fact that that wasn't what I said, but whatever.
Keep going.
I forgot what my point was now. Thanks a lot, asshole.
You're so defensive.
There's something about a mini-map.
When I play games like Dragon Age, I tend to navigate via the minimap. And that was one of the first things I noticed, because the minimap is exactly the same. Even though they'll be like, oh yeah, you can't go here, but you can go over here, both of those areas still show on every single minimap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So, Kyle, let's get your opinion on this, because you're going to be doing the review for PC, and you were a huge Origins fan. Like, you loved Origins. Your review of it is glowing. You loved it, so obviously you must love Dragon Age 2.
You'd think. No. It's very...
No.
No. He sounds
very-
so sad.
I am kind of depressed, actually, playing it. Like, I was thinking, I'm unimpressed and I'm depressed. I think it's a bad BioWare game, like John was saying. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, of course, naturally, why? Why did it end up like this? I'm thinking, okay, it was rushed. It came out in just over a year. A lot of the things in it seemed like it was the first thing that came to mind. Oh, yeah, let's have that quest. We need a quest idea. And then they just come up with it in 5 minutes, And it's just, the thing that's getting to me is just the lack of compelling content. The quests are boring. I don't find that most of the dialogue very good. And I don't even really like the characters that much, which is really, really disappointing.
That's
because,
interesting.
BioWare characters, good characters, that's like their trademark practically.
Despite the fact that I agree with you with the overall story, and I talk about this in my review because I feel that that's because this isn't Hawk's story, it's Kirkwall's story. I actually like the characters. I like them a lot.
I actually agree. I think the cast is awesome.
Yeah, I'm right there. I think that the cast has some shortcomings. I really didn't like Isabella.
Meryl.
I love Meryl.
I think Meryl's hilarious.
She's so
I agree
cute
with
and dry and awesome.
And her conversations with everybody are almost always funny because she's so oblivious.
Now, granted, she looks like Skeletor when you sleep with her. I mean, that is a weird picture. But I love Meryl. She's great. I can't stand Isabella.
I have to agree. I think Isabella's funny when she has her little dialogues with other people. But the fact that every time you go to someone's house, Isabella's walking out and she's like, yeah, we totally did something.
Yeah, that happened twice to me today while I was playing. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. There's
a lot, and they try way too hard to make her into like Dragon Age's sexy Miranda. And
At one point,
Miranda was stupid, and so was she.
There's just something keeping me from really warming up to most of the characters. I mean, I'm starting to like some of them. I'm starting to like Varric quite a bit.
Varric's the man.
Varric's the best character in the game.
I do like Anders as well. I mean, I liked him in Awakenings, even though he lost his sense of humor, kind of. I guess it makes
We'll
sense.
see how you like Anders later in the game. Well,
At first, I didn't like anybody, and then I slowly, like, the more like you get their like conversations and stuff, I started to like him a lot more. At first, I couldn't stand Fenris, and now he's one of my favorite characters.
Fenris is so like I think Steven and I we talked about this over Steam. Like Fenris is kind of BioWare making fun of the traditional like Cloud Strife, Squall Leonhardt character. They're kind of making fun of like he's just like I don't love anybody, including myself. Like he's so emo and just like I hate everybody.
So angry.
He's so angry, but I love him.
That's what I like about it, because after a while, you're like, something happens, and you're like, oh, Fenris is going to totally destroy this guy.
And he does.
Yeah, and then, like, he walks up and puts his hand inside of him, and they blow up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was awesome.
I love him. I
like.
He's a great character.
I like how you'll have the conversations, and you know how you can occasionally turn to another character if they're relevant to it. Most of the time when you turn to Fenris, it's basically, hey, totally slaughter this guy. And he does.
Fenris is like, yo, man, this guy's got to die.
Like you meet a slaver, and you're just like, Fenris? And he's like, my pleasure. And then the best part is after that, he uses his little hand of death thing. Varric goes, so do you use that hand of death thing often?
There is really, really funny dialogue. I really like two of the funny dialogues that I saw. Hawk, I played, of course, the sarcastic Hawk, where he was always doing the sarcastic comments, and I think he delivers the sarcastic lines better than anything else in the game. He comes across with like that British sense of humor. At one point, a blood mage was like threatening the whole party, talking about how she was going to kill everybody, and Hawk just looked at her and was just like, so do you mind explaining your particular brand of crazy? Like, just so dry and witty, and that was awesome. Then there was this. Remember how we talked about how Dragon Age 2 was a little bit more crass? I didn't feel that happened as much as I thought it was going to after playing the demo. There's moments where characters curse, but it's relegated to
pretty much whenever Isabella's on screen.
Yes, and that's who we're getting to.
And she likes big boats, and she cannot lie.
Yes,
she does.
At one point, I'm being very delicate here. Aveline and Isabella have a conversation because Aveline feels that she's not having a good relationship with her husband. And Isabella gives her some advice. It is probably the most vile thing I've ever heard in a video game, and that's including Grand Theft Auto. I was just like, what? We'll talk after the podcast about that one, but I think that the crassness of the game is kept with characters that it works with, and so it didn't end up being a distraction as much as I thought it was going to. Like Isabella curses like a sailor because she's a sailor. So
now, I have to take back what I said slightly. Isabella can be annoying, except when she's with the right characters.
Yes.
Like, if you have Isabella with Fenris, everything they say is funny because she makes fun of him being all emo. And she hits on him so hardcore, and he's just so visibly uncomfortable. And his response, like, they're sitting there talking about politics and about slavery, and then he goes, could you please just ask me to take my underwear off again?
I kept Isabella and Meryl in my party a lot, and I thought they had some great dialogue together. The one thing I remember, I never kept Aveline in my party, but
how did you get through the game? Oh, that's right, you played as a warrior.
I played as a warrior, so okay. I didn't need any kind of tank. I was just like, hi, I'm a warrior. You can't hurt me, and when you do hurt me, I can just steal your health.
Like, if you don't have, like, I played as an archer rogue, and if you have to have Aveline in your party, or else you're screwed. Like, you need a tank. You absolutely.
Maybe that's my problem.
See, I actually stopped using. I used Aveline for a while because I liked it, and then boring. I realized that the best offense in this game or best defense in this game is to just kill really fast.
Yes.
So I switched to Fenris.
Yeah.
So now
the dialogue that you talk about with Aveline, is that the men are good for one thing, women are good for six?
No,
okay. I just want to make sure that I wasn't confused, because that's the dialogue that I loved with Meryl.
No, this is one about where to place your hand.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. and it was I literally like I paused the game and I was just what?
See, I think what we have here is us actually talking about what I think is strongest in the game, which is the cast.
Yes, I would agree.
I think that it is
really
the only
like the
thing
cast.
that got the amount of time it needed. The combat is fun, but it's unbalanced because they didn't have time to balance it. The game has repetitive environments because it was rushed. I think the only thing that they really got right was the cast and giving Hawk that personality, because it's obvious they were trying to make Hawk a memorable character like Shepard is.
Yeah, and this is you segued very nicely because I think we've talked about the characters. And I think the characters are open for debate, and I can see where Kyle's coming from. I don't think I like the characters in Dragon Age 2. I don't think there's anybody that stands out as much as Alistair and Morrigan. I loved those two, but
See,
I think the cast is very good.
The cast and the dialogue and the banter between them, that's one of the things that it's almost impossible not to compare to Origins. And just Origins won me over with with Alistair's banter and Morgan and everything. Whereas with Dragon Age 2, it just feels a little bit forced, and it just, I don't know, there's just something missing from it that
And I can definitely see that, but the thing that I wanted to get into, because I think Steven is a better man than all of us for playing this game on Nightmare, and I warned Steven that he probably wouldn't want to do that. So Steven, why don't you tell us? You said that Dragon Age 2 is not balanced. Please enlighten us.
It's funny that you should mention that, because I'm actually playing it now and getting ready to punch a hole in something. But, well, basically what happens is the introduction scene on Nightmare, people can, be internet tough guys or whatever and talk about how incredibly easy it is on Nightmare. The intro is murderously hard on Nightmare because you have no abilities. You have one ability. You basically have to kite the ogre until he's dead. And, I'm used to BioWare first dungeons being terrible because I think they do that on purpose. And so you get past that. And Act 1 starts out very challenging, but honestly, I thought the difficulty was really well tuned. It was very hard, but I had to switch between characters, and as long as I managed my characters well, I could win. That's great. You start Act 2, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, you won those fights? Which I also wanted to mention, oh my god, the boss of Act 1 is hard. But
yeah.
You get to Act 2, and you're fighting, and you're like, oh, all right, the fights seem, basically just as easy as before. And then you finish the first wave, which the first wave of Act 2 is like all 3 waves of the previous acts because they're dumping so many more guys at you. So you finish that, and then like 30 more guys spawn. And in the process of killing those guys, you kill one and 2 more spawn. And you're like, all right, so they're just going to continually spawn enemies until I get overrun. And so that is where the quote-unquote difficulty comes from, is that you're winning a fight, so what do? They spawn in 6 rogues. Rogues aren't a problem if you can stop them from stealthing, which is basically impossible because they're always going to do it at least once. And in Nightmare, if you get hit by a stealth rogue, it doesn't matter how much health you have, you're dead.
Yeah.
So you kill an entire squad of enemies, and then they spawn a bunch of trash mobs and 5 elite rogues.
And if
those 5 elite rogues go stealth, you're dead, unless you run away from the fight totally and come back. And then by the time you get back, you'll hit them twice, and then they'll stealth again. Because if you don't, all 4 of your characters are going to get one-hit killed.
One thing that we talked about on the podcast before, and I did the PC review of Dragon Age Origins, and I found that the game's difficulty was really all over the place. Now, granted, I had a completely broken party when I first played Origins. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to play it like a JRPG, going for massive damage instead of crowd control, so my party just sucked. So going into Dragon Age 2, I very much knew, okay, well, I got to have the Holy Trinity. I got to have a mage, I got to have a tank, and I got to have a rogue. And then the 4th character, I can kind of do whatever I want. I'm playing Dragon Age 2. I played it on normal the whole way through. I never died. I never died on normal. I played Hawk was an archer, and archers are ridiculously overpowered now. There's no point in having a melee rogue.
Melee rogue is basically a weak warrior that's going to get aggro too fast and then die, unless you're Hawk. Hawk can be a good melee rogue because he gets his specialized trees, but I basically find Isabella to be a really terrible warrior.
Yeah, because she'll.
I went with dual wielding rogue for Hawk, and I've had trouble on hard. There were some battles that were pretty much impossible on hard.
Yeah, and see, I pumped up the difficulty to hard right around the end of Act 1. Right around the end of Act 1, I was like, wow, I've not died. I'm not having any problems. I'm going to pump the difficulty up to hard. And then, I see a mage, and I'm like, all right, well, this is going to get interesting. It's like I'm going to play Dragon Age it's like I'm playing Origins again. The mage auto-killed Hawk. Just used one spell and just auto-killed him. I didn't even see a damage marker. He just died. And so, okay, well, Anders revive Hawk, and Hawk revived, and the spell was still going on, and he just died again. And at that point, I was like, I have no desire to play this game on hard, because this isn't difficulty. This is just you auto-kill my guys. And so eventually, about midway through Act 2, I got, the gumption up to do it again, and I ran into the exact same problem that Steven's talking about, where I had a rogue go stealth and then auto-kill 3 of my guys. Like, a couple of rogues just went stealth.
It's not like they do it slowly either. I mean, they'll go stealth, hit you once, and then go stealth again.
Yeah.
They'll just continually backstab you. And there's one spell that works. It's the Misdirection Hex that will prevent them from getting backstab damage. And the thing is, that's great. If you have 3 mages, they can cast it once every 60 seconds, I think. And if you're fighting 6 rogues, you kill 2 of them and 3 more spawn. What do you do?
Yeah. I think the difficulty... the game is not balanced, which is a real shame. I'm a huge proponent of balanced difficulty, and Dragon Age 2 to me is not balanced. It's either way too hard or way too easy. And
yeah, that's what I'm finding.
What I think would be interesting is I drew in my review a comparison to World of Warcraft. And I think that that's apropos here, because I think that Dragon Age 2 would be balanced if you had one person playing each character. If this were an MMO, I have a feeling it would be more balanced, because you would have better crowd control and everything else.
Excellent multiplayer.
Yeah. And now this is also interesting, and I wanted to throw this out there because I finished the game. On Act 2, without giving away spoilers, the end of Act 2, you can fight the final fight of Act 2 a couple of different ways. And one of the ways to do it is to fight it alone as Hawk.
Oh my god.
I could not finish it because my Hawk was not built for it. So I was like, I think that was the only time I died on normal. So now, John, you probably had an easy time because your guy was a warrior.
Yes, that fight was cake.
Yeah, you just probably auto-attacked him and then just maybe dropped a health potion midway through the fight.
I don't even need health potions. My guy was set up to be a Reaver. He would literally just... I had an ability that would give me half of my health back and deal damage to the opponent.
Yeah, and see, I was playing as my Archer Rogue, and the game does this really obnoxious thing where it stun locks you. It's like the game is cheating just like we did in Origins to beat Origins, where a character will knock you down, and then as you're getting up, the character
gets stun locked.
Oh my god.
Yep, knocks you down again.
So annoying.
There's nothing you can do because your mages are never going to have enough fortitude, because your warriors sometimes get knocked down and they have like 30, 40 fortitude. The mages have like 2.
Yep. And
I was getting furious.
You get knocked down, even as a warrior, you get knocked down by everything.
I could not beat the final boss of Act 2 by myself. I had to do it as a party. And I know a lot of people say that that's the hardest fight in the game. My party ripped through it, no problem. Like, I had a god party, but each individual piece of my party worked. One character could not do anything on their own. So I think that plays into John's angle of this is very much like an MMO, where all the gears have to turn. Now, I feel like Zach has maybe fallen asleep. Do you have anything to add, Zach?
How's the story? Did they live up to that? Yeah, no, I've just been chilling. I was actually, the one thing that I'm kind of wondering, is how did BioWare deliver on this kind of interesting, unconventional narrative that they promised?
Not really.
No,
absolutely not.
Bummer.
It's a real
So
shame.
far.
It's a real shame because I think I was so happy that BioWare did something different, because this isn't there's an ultimate evil, we have to go complete 3 quests and then we will fight the ultimate evil. This is very much the story of, do not be confused, this is not the story of Hawk.
Hawk is a guy who's in Kirkwall.
Yes, this is the story of Kirkwall, and it's a very different type of narrative. I am very happy that they tried it. I think Act 2 is the peak of the story. It's the most interesting. And then Act 3 is just a repeat of what happened in Origins. It's almost a complete repeat of one of the storylines in Origins. And
I don't think... I was just saying, I agree with what you're saying. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm really getting that vibe too, because I didn't finish the first Dragon Age. I got basically right before the last section, and I'm really getting that kind of that vibe.
It's repeating old territory.
This is one of the problems, I think.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the problems with the narrative is Kirkwall. Kirkwall, it's about Kirkwall, but it fails as both a character and a setting. It's a terrible fantasy city. It has no individuality. It has nothing interesting about it. It doesn't feel alive like the Assassin's Creed cities. It doesn't have a unique identity like Planescape Torment's Sigil. And it's just another generic fantasy city. And it all kind of looks the same, and it's not very big.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. I think that Kirkwall is almost the game's ultimate failing. And I don't mean that there's nothing inherently good about it. I liked the political intrigue.
I think the backstory of Dragon Age fits well with it. It's just the town itself doesn't bring much new to it. Like, most of your background story is just stuff that was in Origins.
Yeah.
You know what? Dragon Age 2 should have taken place in Midgar.
Oh, that would have been cool. I love Midgar. I really. Okay. Anyway,
but I ripped off the Junon canon. It would have been goat.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. Like, no one will remember Kirkwall.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. There's so much that I love about this game. I love the fact that each character class is fun to play. I love the fact that the combat, even though it has problems and it spawns a lot of trash mobs on you, I like the fact that combat makes you feel really powerful. I was telling the guys earlier that I can one-shot an ogre for 6,000 damage. When you see an ogre literally explode like a pimple,
now
that is so satisfying.
I can't do that, but I will say I feel pretty good about the mage's damage because you can crit with Chain Lightning and do about 2,000 damage. And no, it's not as 6,000, but it's the 10 guys.
Yeah. I like the fact that they made it so the rogue is all about taking down single characters. I think the combat, while very repetitive, and I think the game stresses the combat way too much, I do really like it. It's just that outside of the characters and outside of the fun combat, I really didn't care about the quests I was completing. I really didn't care about the world that much. A lot of it's just repeating. So I think from that angle, it's a disappointment to me. But
so I would like to propose that we rename Dragon Age 2 to Jade Empire 2, and we're all good.
Well, I think that I'm so happy that they gave it a harder edge, which I really liked. I didn't like the fact that in Origins, we've talked before, like everybody looked like they were wearing leather diapers. The mages couldn't have looked worse if they tried with their cone head hats.
Whereas in this one, they look badass.
Yeah, like everything just hits really hard and everything feels really visceral. So that angle I love. The problem is that if we could just have Origins story and the culmination. I mean, Origins, when you finished Origins, you felt like you did something. That was like an ending. I finished Dragon Age 2, and I'll be honest, I just kind of stared at the screen and I was like,
I agree.
I was like, real? Huh? Like, that's it? And then I tried, the first thing I did when I finished Origins, I fired up another character. And part of that was because of the origin stories. And I wanted to play as a different character. Mm-hmm. And I fired up another game of Dragon Age 2, and I'll be honest, I haven't played it for a week. I have no desire to play it.
I don't think I'm going to play another character in it, honestly. Maybe like a year from now. But
when Dragon Age 3, the Hawkening comes out, or whatever the hell. The Hawkening.
It's Dragon Age 3, Dragon Age Year.
Yes.
The thing I get most out of this game, and I think I said it to Rob a while ago, I feel like BioWare could have saved themselves a lot of that whole we hate this game because it's dumbed down and just marketed this game. The first Dragon Age was a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate. This game reminds me so much of Icewind Dale, it's not even funny. Because Icewind Dale was the same thing. They were like, oh, it's more focused on the combat. It's visceral combat, and it's faster. Icewind Dale is faster than Baldur's Gate, but similar. And just, in my opinion, the characters in Icewind Dale because you make your whole party. It's not the focus, and the story isn't that great in it either. I really just feel like I'm playing a 3D Icewind Dale because it's just fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in Icewind Dale, I never paid attention to what I was doing. I just basically did go here, kill this, get that. And that's basically what this whole game is. And I think the conversations between the quests are awesome. Like, I like the story behind the quests. It's just the actual activities you're doing in the quests are all the same.
That's the most intriguing thing to me, is the dialogue that I enjoyed the most was the throwaway dialogue.
Yeah, that was the best part of the game. It really was.
The only part of the game with any personality.
Yep. So I think we've kind of beaten a dead horse here. I would say Dragon Age. I really liked Dragon Age 2. I had a fun time with it. I played the hell out of it for 4 days. But when I beat it, it was kind of like an empty meal. It was like I beat it, and I really don't have any desire to replay it. I'm kind of left with an empty feeling. They completely set up for the next game. They literally, they're just like, well, something cool is going to happen in Dragon Age 3. And I'll be interested to talk to you guys after you beat the game, because you have the big decision about who you side with in the third act. That doesn't impact anything. It still happens.
You know what I really think they're trying to do is they see how much anticipation there is for Mass Effect 3, and they're trying to do the same thing with Dragon Age, but they forget that it's a different series, and the reason people anticipate Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect doesn't have the most original story in the world, but the characters are great, and people really get invested in Shepard because of the decisions they made. That doesn't happen in Dragon Age, and from what you said, it sounds like they're trying to be like, oh, look, this is the big finale of Dragon Age coming up. But
they already killed an archdemon. Like, that's my point. Like, you killed an archdemon in Origins. Like, that is basically the equivalent of going up and punching out God. And like, where can you go from that? And so they had nowhere to go but down, and they really they kind of slummed it with the story. Like, what are we going to have him do? Are we going to have him fight a mecha archdemon? No, we're just going to have him do some political intrigue. And so it doesn't feel grand. It really doesn't. And it's almost by nature of what they did with the original that's going to happen, but it's still a disappointment.
You know what I think they didn't succeed with, though, is the whole years pass between each act. I thought it was great that, they all meet in you meet almost everyone except for Sebastian in Act 1. And then what I really liked was in Act 2, just running around Hawk's house, seeing all the stuff that they were like, oh, yeah, Isabella was here, and she did this, and Varric came over here and told me he liked this, and I thought they did a really good job of suggesting that these people have known each other for a long time.
Yeah. I was expecting that to be better developed. I wanted to see something along the lines of Assassin's Creed 2, where you see Ezio go from a young boy to a master assassin, and I felt like they tried with Dragon Age 2, but they never achieved that.
Well, because Hawk seemed like Hawk was basically the same from Act 1. The prologue to Act 1 to Act 2.
Yeah.
he doesn't
not really dynamic.
have aged much. They're like, oh yeah, now he's an aristocrat. Yeah, but he still does the exact same crap he did before. He runs around in sewers and kills bandits.
Now, I think we need to move on, because we're starting to.
Yeah, we're getting too long. Okay.
Time. The last thing that I want to say about Dragon Age is Dragon Age 2 wins because Sandal has a conversation with Yurmabari.
Yes, he does.
Yes. All right. So, can I put my hater pants on?
No.
Keep your hater pants in the closet.
Do we possibly want to keep hater pants until next time? Because it's not necessarily an argument or a conversation that is time relevant. Like, we can have that conversation next week, or...
He really has to get it out.
Rob has really wanted to get this out.
All right, we'll make it short then.
Heavy Rain 2 story sucks.
There's a sequel?
You played Heavy Rain 2?
Can you please get me?
Did I say Heavy Rain 2? I guess I got screwed up with Dragon. Okay, let me try that one again. I love how you guys have this dramatic build up, and then I go ahead and absolutely mess it up. Heavy Rain story sucks. It's so.
I want to hear about the sequel.
Yeah, we don't care about Heavy Rain.
Okay, all right. So we've been yelling at each other on the boards because Heavy Rain came out.
Because Rob hates fun.
On our staff boards.
Yeah, on our staff boards.
You can't find this conversation.
And it's probably for the best. Heavy Rain, it came out for Greatest Hits, and I went ahead and I picked it up. And now, John, was 100% right. I
You
definitely
went in
had
expecting to hate it.
I was kind of expecting to be let down because I had read about the plot holes in the game, and I definitely went in with a preconceived notion that the story was going to suck. That being said, the story sucks more than I could have anticipated. I'm glad my expectations were lowered. This game does some absolutely brilliant things when it comes to building tension and making you feel like your decisions matter. It's all smoke and mirrors, but hey, that's all video games are in general. So I can't fault it for that. So it makes you feel like you're in these really tense, serious situations as you try to solve the mystery of the origami killer. Sorry.
Did you like how every character pronounces that word differently?
Yes, and I also like Jason.
Jason.
Jason. Jason.
My favorite part, though, is the guy in the police station who he's like, the origami killer, the origami killer.
But
so what is origami?
But then when you start to think about why you're in these situations and you try to make sense of the story, you realize that this is one of the most rock stupid, inane, horrible stories I've ever seen in a video game, and I feel like it's getting away with absolute murder. The fact that people are like, this is video game storytelling at its best. No, it's interesting gameplay at its best. It's horrible.
No. I disagree with you there. I totally disagree with you. Is this storytelling at its best? Yes.
Is it story itself
at its best? Absolutely not.
If you went and put a really great story behind that system, it would work beautifully.
Okay, if you made it so that the characters could control decently, because this game makes Resident Evil feel like you're driving a Ferrari.
Really? I don't know. I mean, I didn't find any problems. If you just basically, it is kind of a silly control scheme, especially when you kind of like it separates like looking from moving and everything, which that's what most games. Anyways, but sorry, yeah. If you just hold down R2 and then use the analog stick like you have analog control, it works pretty well. But
there were times where the game puts you in these situations which are timed, and I almost failed them because I could not get my character to hone in on that one item that I wanted to. I'm like, no, look down. No, look down. I felt like I was playing that Sega Saturn game. What was it, Life Force or whatever?
That game was cool.
The one where you're telling the girl to like do things. Was that a PlayStation 2 game?
There's a PS2 game.
Yeah, that was PS2 game. Yeah,
Lifeline.
Lifeline, yeah. I felt like I was like, no, look down. No, look down.
Rob, I have a question for you. Did you ever play Indigo Prophecy?
Yes, and I remember I liked Indigo Prophecy until it turned into Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, no. I don't care about the story. But
okay.
The control schemes in these games, while it was not the whole kind of drive your character around like it was in Heavy Rain, had the same kind of, okay, when you interact with things, it's going to be emotion. And I didn't have any kind of issue whatsoever with the control scheme, I think because I played Indigo Prophecy. So it's interesting to hear you say that you had issues with it.
Yeah. But my biggest, and I can accept that. I mean, I can take horrible controls if it doesn't impact the gameplay. And for the most part, it doesn't in Heavy Rain. The thing that just really broke everything for me was when I sat down and I started to think about, why am I in this situation? Why did it happen like this? Why is my character doing this? There's these amazing jumps in logic, and just the game at one point completely cheats. And I think we talked about it before, and I won't give away the big spoiler, but the game shows no respect for the audience at one point with the way that it tries to pull the wool over your eyes as to who the killer is by just hardcore cheating.
Yeah, I agree. I love the game, but I will agree completely with that.
Anybody that defends that, if you defend that, I really have a problem, because that is not storytelling. That's a giant middle finger to the audience. That it's only there to throw you off the track of the killer, and it shows no respect.
The thing that I agree with that, because what it is it breaks. They make a very strong point of being really consistent about how they present you the story and how they show you every event. Like you get gaps in between when you switch characters. Like Ethan goes here and then you're here, and everything you see is Ethan's perspective. And you get that one point where it's like they don't do that, and it's critical.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. And then there's plot threads that are never explored. I mean, at one point, a character begins to question whether or not they are the origami killer. They're sitting there going, maybe I am, and it's my subconscious. Never explored again. They just never explore it. There's a plot hole there too, which I don't want to get into, but it's like something very bizarre is happening and the game never explains it. The game basically drops plot threads and plot points that it no longer feels are relevant without explaining them.
Now, some of them, you have to admit, when you play again, some of them are tied up.
I really doubt that why Ethan always has an origami figure in his hand is ever explained. And that's a huge one.
But yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the other ones are, because it's one of those games that the more you think about it, the worse it is. Like, after I beat it the first time, while I was playing it, it was so intense, and I was really, really into it, and I was like, this is amazing. But like afterward and through the second playthrough, it kind of got more tepid. I still really like the game, but,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
to. Go ahead.
All this kind of comes to the same point to me, and that's Heavy Rain is the equivalent to The Sixth Sense. It's great that first time you watch it and the second time you watch it, because you're getting all the points that, the first time it's like, oh, wow, it's really intense, you're really invested. The second time you're there to see the differences. And then after that, you're just kind of, if you think about it anymore, it continues to fall apart. And it mirrors Heavy Rain exactly with that.
I think Heavy Rain is best as the David Cage experience. It's very much like I like Kyle, had a ton of fun playing through this very tense, interactive storytelling, whatever you want to call it, game. And once I'd kind of played through it, and once I'd kind of seen what there was to see, I was just kind of like, okay, wow, that was super awesome. It's not worth dissecting. It like David Cage said, it's only really worth playing through one time, but not for the reasons that he said. But I don't know. I thought it was. Again,
you start to see the strings behind the puppets,
as opposed to his rationale, which is you have to have this personalized story.
I think that's also part of it. Is that I don't get me wrong, I respect David Cage, and I'm really glad that he made this game, because I'm sorry, making something new in video games and challenging the medium, I'm always going to be behind that. So from that perspective, hey, I'm really glad he made it. But then when I hear something like that, the cynical view of me is just like, well, you want me to have this experience, you want me to have an emotional connection to the situations I'm in. Okay, there are some very harrowing situations in the game. But then if I start thinking about why I'm in those situations, it starts to very rapidly fall apart. And as I said before we recorded, I feel like Heavy Rain, David Cage sat down and wrote fairly cliched but fun scenarios, the car that fills up with water, the being tied to a table while, someone's going to kill you.
All right, that scene was just messed up.
Yeah.
It was so awesome, though.
That scene was just
these big
exploitation.
Well, that we're going to get there. These big, elaborate fight scenes. So I feel like he wrote all these very interesting action scenarios, and then he crafted a story to put you in those scenarios, and you can create something like North by Northwest. Alfred Hitchcock very famously had these scenarios. Oh, I want to do a movie on Mount Rushmore. Oh, I want to do a movie with a plane. And the scriptwriter had to come up with a story that would fit in all these scenarios, and it was beautiful. But then you could also have something like Pirates of the Caribbean 3, where all the action scenes were made before they had a script, and it doesn't really flow together that well. To me, Heavy Rain feels a lot like Pirates of the Caribbean 3, where I don't know why I'm in these situations. I don't know why everybody wants to kill Madison, and why the game feels the need to do full frontal nudity with her to objectify her and make her a complete object. But, yeah, we seem to be doing that.
In the conversation we had on the staff boards, I still like the concept of Madison, but she is the worst character in the game.
Yes, she is a complete... For David Cage to sit there and say in an interview that he's using nudity to tell a story and to get us involved in the characters, and then within
For Madison to go, hey.
To basically have 2 shower scenes in the game with the 2 main protagonists, one being male, which is quick in and out, and then one being female, where the player can basically control her to stay in the shower, and we get full frontal nudity, and then you towel her off and you put on your clothes. That's just poor taste. That's just very poor taste.
Well, that and half of what she has to do in the game is get into this strange compromising situation so that way you can get information.
It reminds me of like Terry Goodkind novels where the character Kaylin, like the idea of her is this very strong female character, and then every antagonist in the game is trying to rape her.
And it's very I had a conversation with a friend of mine today, and I told her the scenario, because I was like, at one point Madison goes into a strip club and she uses her sexuality to get what she wants, to get information, and you could make the argument that at that point she is taking over her sexuality and she is using it as a weapon. It's the same argument that people make about Bayonetta, which just makes me uncomfortable to play as a gamer. I don't want anyone coming into the room when I play Bayonetta. But the game just makes me feel like a pervert. But you could argue that, at this point Madison is in charge of her sexuality, but at the same time it's simply there to titillate the audience. So is she in charge of her sexuality? I don't know.
I agree that the shower scene is objectifying, and the scene with her and Ethan is objectifying.
Which is just awkward.
And her opening scene where she's in her underwear.
Yeah, I don't agree about that scene. I think that scene actually treated her sexuality correctly.
But she can still get naked in that scene. The player can still get her topless.
You can't get her all the way naked. Because she always forces you to grab the lamp. I'm just not
convinced.
What's that, Kyle?
I don't know. I'm not convinced that she is being used irresponsibly.
I really feel like in her opening scene she is. I mean, she's basically running around in her underwear while attackers are trying to kill her, and they're
and the thing is, it's irrelevant to her story.
Yeah, it's
they go, she's been having these nightmares, and you never hear about them again.
Yeah, it's again, they needed an action scene, and it's there, and
the sequence as an individual sequence works.
It's intense.
It's a great sequence.
Oh yeah.
Yes. When they put you in those sequences, it's awesome. But then when you start to think about them, like, for example, at one point you have this big elaborate chase scene through the weirdest grocery store I've ever seen, where they have free-range chickens, and which is just bizarre. And then you capture somebody, and it's like, he may be the origami killer. How do you know that? I said, how did you know that? I feel like Plinkett. I'm like, how did you know that? How did you know that he was a suspect? Are we going to interrogate him? What's his alibi? What's going on? And then the game just kind of leaves. Just kind of keeps going. So it's not a well-written game. It's really not. But those individual moments are great. It's kind of like the DLC, The Taxidermist, like how intense that one is. But it works better as a little vignette rather than a full-blown story. So I think we've talked enough about it. I think David Cage made a very interesting game. I'm glad he made it. I'm very glad he made it. I would love to see other games with decent writing in this type of genre, but I just don't think the ridiculousness of the story kept on ripping me out of the scenarios.
Grab a couple of BioWare writers.
Yes. I would love to see.
It will be the Union from heaven.
I've got this image of Meryl avoiding being drilled right now, which is very weird.
Honestly, that scene really made me uncomfortable, because that whole scene, I was sitting there going, the only reason Madison is in this game is so they can put her in sexually compromising situations. You can get... Am I allowed to use genital words?
As long as you're tasteful.
You can get drilled in the vagina in that game to death.
Really?
Yeah, that's messed up.
That's a little weird. I mean, it's a little crazy.
Why is every character who Madison encounters a sexual deviant?
Because
except for Ethan.
Madison is the equivalent of Kaylin in all the Terry Goodkind books.
I think she just has very bad luck. I just think she has very bad.
Creepers.
We need to move on because we're capped for time, but I want the last word on Heavy Rain, and that is none of David Cage's games in the future will ever be better than Omicron, because they will all lack David Bowie.
I have a copy of Omicron for the Dream.
So do I.
So do I.
Cage did Omicron?
Yeah.
I thought that was John Romero.
No.
Really?
Daikatana. That's John Romero.
That's what it was. Yeah.
There you go.
Omicron, the Nomad Soul was the first
I never played
game.
that one.
I've never played it either.
So quick aside, and then we got to go. Omicron, the Nomad Soul, if you play it on Dreamcast, is a great fighter and an awful shooter. And if you play it on PC, it's a better shooter but an awful fighter.
Well, they couldn't win.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like it's worth playing now, but whatever.
Okay. All right. So, with those two conversations behind us, is it time for Dissidia?
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick aside on this. I have not finished the story in Dissidia 012 duodecim, whatever it's called. I'm like 6 hours into the game. We should have a review either on release date or close to release date. Chances are by the time you hear this podcast, we'll have the review. Make this quick and easy. It's the first Dissidia with more stuff.
Cool.
Did you like Dissidia?
No.
If you
I honestly never played it.
If you like Dissidia, you're gonna like Duodecim. The story is still awful. I have no idea what any of this stuff is supposed to mean or put together. It's the forces of chaos versus the forces of cosmos, and it's all there to just put these characters into the same
You could pretty much
world.
just change every subtitle to Herp Derp, and you get the same story.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why not just? But then they could have really treated it cool, kind of like Super Smash Brothers. Like I always viewed Dissidia as kind of like the Square Enix Super Smash Brothers.
I would have so much more respect for the story in Dissidia if they did a Smash Brothers style thing, but it's like they're trying to tell a serious story again. It didn't work in the first Dissidia. It doesn't work in this one. They expand this. We didn't cover the first Dissidia because it was a fighter. The single player mode in this is an RPG. It's got an overworld. It's the game even has what's called an RPG mode now, where instead of having direct control over your characters, you're just kind of issuing orders to them.
Well, they did have that in the first one.
How is this an RPG more than Dawn of War 2? Sorry.
Don't start that. Don't start that, Rob.
There's significantly more in the way of statistics and numbers in this game than any other fighter on the face of the earth.
Yeah, whenever I see a
the fights are significantly influenced by like equipment and stats and
at
abilities.
some point John needs to explain how Dissidia works. I think I tried to understand it at the time, and I was just...
The character essentially has two kinds of health. They have hit points and they have bravery.
Okay.
Bravery is also a source of power. So if you do a bravery attack, you take that bravery from the opponent. And the amount of bravery you have is the amount of damage you can do with a hit point attack. Now, if you reduce the opponent's bravery to 0, you get what's called a bravery break. And you get a significant boost to your bravery. When you use that attack to do a hit point attack, you do more damage, but your bravery goes back down to its normal levels.
So it's kind of like a tug of war back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you hit them a lot with your quick, fast, brave attacks, and then you have your HP attacks, which are usually harder to hit with. But when they hit, they do actual damage.
I would still prefer if I would just hit Cloud more and more, and his percentage would go up, and then eventually I could hit him with a home run bat and knock him out of the ring.
It does feel needlessly complicated, but it's exactly the same as in the first game. Like it's not like anything has changed here. The only thing that's really changed inside of battle is that you can summon an assist character. And if you bought Duodecim Prologus Waste of $3, you get Aerith.
Yeah, and she can use Great Gospel.
Yeah.
Is she alive?
Because everyone's alive. All the bad guys that you killed at the end of every Final Fantasy game, they're all alive.
Yeah, like if you want to talk a game where it'll melt your brain to think about the continuity, play Dissidia, because it's literally like Squall's like, oh, I'm so upset about what happened at the end of my game. Ultimatia's here, and then it's like Lightning is sitting there talking about how she has to get back home so she can face her true destiny.
So
she also said, it's just... Ugh.
There are some extra story sequences in what's called the manual, where you can go and it'll go through a bunch of still mind-numbingly what the hell is going on here sequences. And one of them, it's like Kuja has tricked Zidane into being like, oh yeah, we're on the same side. And then he's totally shocked when Kuja betrays him.
I do love Final Fantasy. I gotta replay 9 at some point. Whenever I see Kefka voiced, why do I always think of Heath Ledger's voice coming out of Kefka? I really do.
I truly wish that I had never seen an Amano drawing or a 3D rendering of Kefka, because when I think of Kefka, I don't think of this crazy clown dude. I think
of the guy with blonde hair and the feather in his hat.
Yeah, I think of that tiny sprite, and I'm cool with that.
You don't like Kefka the clown?
No, I don't.
Are you afraid of clowns?
No.
He just looks like a jackass.
They all float. They all float.
Kefka in FF6 feels like this very, very just kind of evil, demented, like he destroys the world just kind of because he can.
Yeah, he's just evil for the sake. He is chaotic evil.
Yeah, and I feel like with the whole clown thing going on, it lessens that.
Yeah. So Zach, did you get my "they all float" reference?
Nope.
Did anybody get that?
No.
Nope.
No.
Stephen King's It.
Oh no.
Has anyone here seen Tron?
Which one? Yeah, I saw it recently, actually.
I haven't seen the new one.
You guys missed the Simpsons reference. Game over.
Oh,
shit.
Oh, well.
Jerk. No. Yes. I mean, no.
No.
Yeah, jerk.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
done. Bottom line on Dissidia, and the only reason that I'm cutting this short is we're short on time, and it really is. If you like Dissidia, you're going to like the new Dissidia. If you didn't like the old Dissidia, there's not much that's going to change your mind here.
Cool. All right, so our big guy, Zach, is one of the people that went to PAX, so you obviously have a lot of PAX stuff to talk about. I'm sure you saw Kingdom Hearts 3, right? They announced it, right?
Yeah, totally. It was super awesome and rad and
Robert
and word, yo. Yeah, no,
Robert.
What, Steven?
Leave it alone.
I played before I get into my PAX stuff. And this is actually kind of tied into PAX. I played Pokemon Black. I have.
Show us them.
I can't show you them over the internet, unfortunately. Yeah, but Pokemon Black and White just came out March 9th or whatever it was, and they're very. The last Pokemon I played in earnest was I think Pokemon Blue, like the way back when I was a wee lad, and I dabbled in Sapphire and I dabbled in Pearl, but it's getting into Black now.
Will you go back?
I will not go back, actually. It's very much the same game. The same kind of like 8 gym leaders go, do eugenic and get badges and then fight the Elite Four and then do some post-game stuff. But so that's, if you liked Pokemon before, you'll probably like it now. But what I think is really cool, and this has kind of been available in stuff like canvassing for Final Fantasy IX, not Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest IX, excuse me. And some other stuff with the DS functionality is the Sea Gear, which is a new way to kind of connect with people around you in your Pokemon game. So you get it in, I think, the first or in probably the second city right after you fight the first gym leader, I think, just about. And basically what it does is connects you to all of the DSs around you
or
in
online.
real time. Or online. I haven't had a chance.
Yeah, the server has been broken for me every time I've tried.
Well, so the online stuff, like Game Sync, which is, you can upload your save file to send Pokemon to the Dream World, which is, like a whole thing on its own. The American servers are not up for that yet, so those I think will be in May. You'll be able to play with that. But basically what I was able to do was just walk around the PAX show floor, and people just have their, have Pokemon kind of either running in their backpack, or they're playing it at the Pokemon booth, or doing whatever. And you can very easily, like, instantly either challenge people to a battle, or trade via the infrared port or whatever. It makes it this much more kind of communal experience. And they also have a really neat survey feature, which I haven't seen anyone talk about, but right now I'm able to check on my game, and I have like 40 people who I passed by at PAX while I was just like walking around doing nothing. And it shows you what starter they chose, what version of the game they're playing, and how long they've played. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for like more surveys to be put out, and more, just information gathering. And that general level of connectedness, I feel like, is something that Pokemon has been perhaps striving for in the past and just hasn't been able to achieve. And so that's kind of my 2 cents on Pokemon, is that it's the same, and I haven't played it for a while, so I'm kind of digging it. And
so basically, the last one I played was Red. They've added a lot.
They've added. Yes. Well, that's the thing. Is like I'm not too far into the game, so I haven't had a chance to do anything with breeding or with whatever.
Yeah,
Pokemon no
eugenics.
I haven't messed around with EVs or IVs or competitive battling.
EVs are Pokemans.
Well, yeah, but there's also like hidden stats. But I haven't had a chance to screw with any of like the really advanced gameplay features yet. But it seems like it's a new Pokemon.
I've played a little bit more. I think I've got 6 badges, and if it's Pokemon,
yeah.
Like it, yeah. There's some new stuff, and every single Pokemon, every single Pokemon in the game is new. So
that is one thing.
I wanted to ask, how are the new Pokemon?
I don't like them as much.
Really?
I heard there were ice cream Pokemon.
There is an ice cream Pokemon. I like the new Pokemon. I think that most of them, not all of them, are pretty good. Snivy, who is my starter, I've named Smugleaf because he is smug as all hell.
Wait. It's called Smugleaf?
That's what I named him, because he is so smug.
Oh, okay.
He's the smuggest Pokemon, and I'm appreciative of that.
I have my nicknamed Fire Pig, because he is a pig that's on fire, and now that he's evolved twice, he is now a giant boar that is on fire.
I've genetically engineered this pig to be better than every other pig. Oink.
Spider Pig.
Spider. You know what's amazing to think about? I played the original Pokemon back in middle school.
I was how old?
Yeah.
8?
Yeah. I was
7 or 8 when that came out.
Oh my god.
I played Pokemon Red when I was in middle school, and I remember I was like beside myself with how cool it was, and then I haven't touched it since.
Yeah, I used to go home early so I could watch the cartoon.
Ooh.
The series is probably older than its target demographic right now.
Yes. Which is kind of cool. I mean, it's interesting. Pokemon is kind of like Dragon Age. Dragon Age. Gee, golly, Rob.
It's a lot like Dragon Age.
Heavy Rain 2 and now Dragon Age. It's a lot like Dragon Quest in that respect, where it's something that's kind of goes past generation. It doesn't have a generational gap.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really cool thing that a series can have that effect. And the nice thing is that, I can only imagine what, having the sea gear is like in Japan. And I'll be there, hopefully, fingers crossed, as long as they don't cancel my program, in a week now, actually. I leave in a week and 8 hours.
Not that you're counting.
Not that I'm counting or anything, but so I'll be able to ride the trains when there aren't blackouts, and have that communication with the other the Japanese Pokemans, and do all of that crazy stuff, and I have a feeling that it's going to be a very interesting experience. PAX kind of gave me a taste of that, but that's one weekend or 2 out of the year. So
Yeah,
I can assure you will find plenty of people that play Pokemon in Japan.
I think that's the kind of feature that I'm glad that they included online, because I live in an apartment and I work at an industrial supplier. Like, I'm not going to run into anyone who's playing Pokemons. I'm not.
It'd be kind of cool if you did, though.
Would it?
I think, yeah.
I mean, at the very least, though, it's having the C gear just on will grab any nearby player's survey information, and there's like a little kind of instant communication thing that just kind of pops up on your, like, I don't know if it's on your screen.
I hear that, and that's cool, but because of the spread out nature and
true. I mean, I live in New York City, and so like I passed by a couple of people on the subway the other day. And that doesn't always happen, but I saw one person like had their DS out, and like another kid had their DS out, and so I got two more little bits of information.
Now, Zach punched him in the face and stole their DS. That's what you do.
Pretty much. No, I did not do that. In case anyone of legal importance is listening, did no such thing.
Show them.
Sure you did.
But yeah, so I mean, the kind of final word on Pokemon is that it's Pokemon. It has some cool new features. I think it's kind of nifty that you only see the new 150 some odd Pokemon until you beat the Elite Four. Because it's almost, and I say almost as a very strong, very emphasized word in this sentence, is almost like a reboot of the series, because it's not at all a reboot of the series, but you kind of get that feeling when there's no Pikachu. There is no Pikachu in this game for the first, for the first chunk of time.
Not necessarily true, because they use the Pikachu sprite.
Really?
Like not the battle sprite, but like the little tiny sprite that you see for an individual character on the world map. They use it for another Pokemon, so you will.
Huh.
There are only like 12 Pokemon in the game that they ever show outside of battle, and so either that or it was Pikachu in the game and they were in some city, but it was the Pikachu sprite, or at least something that looked very similar.
All right. Well, I mean, either way, their intention is to is to kind of reboot, not the series perhaps, but that sort of visual, like instantaneous visual acknowledgement that this is Pokemon and that is Pikachu, and Bulbasaur and Squirtle and Charmander are hanging out over there. So I thought that's kind of cool. It's a nice way for someone like me who, I haven't played the game with any, like, I really didn't get into Sapphire and Pearl all that much, just because it was kind of too new. But it's a nice way to reintroduce. And granted, I have a couple of friends who will be going to Japan with me, and we will be playing this at the same time. So it's nice to have that social element, even aside from just meeting random people. But anyway, so is there anything else about Pokemon?
No.
Aside from that,
no.
Yeah. So it's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon.
You should be intelligent enough at this point to decide if Pokemon is for you. If not, you can go play Strange Journey, because it's Pokemon, but with penis demons.
For olders.
Yeah, and it hates you.
It doesn't hate you, it loves you. It has many rewards waiting for you to unlock.
PAX East.
Yay!
Yeah. I met our very own Dennis and our very own Damien, and they're both pretty rad dudes. So hi Dennis, hi Damien, if you're listening. So real quick, I played the 3DS.
Did you throw up?
No, it works. That's like my jaw just kind of like dropped for a good minute while I was just like, hey, this is in 3D, and then I walked away because it was Ocarina of Time, and I played that a lot.
And it's overrated. He said it.
Don't do that.
I've never been able to beat that, and I've tried 6 or 7 times, and I can never finish it. But that's because I think 2D Zelda is just better.
Yes.
Whatever. Anyway, so
Old Zelda.
3DS works. Get you'll have the chance to play Ocarina of Time and Master Quest, sometime later this year after the launch window has closed.
I will have our review of Devil Survivor.
Quick aside before you get to your RPGs from PAX. Who could have seen that the new Ghost Recon 3DS game is either an Advance Wars or Fire Emblem style game? Like, that blows me away.
I think it's cool.
I think it's pretty.
Yeah, no, I dig on it, but it's.
I'm
saw
waiting,
that coming?
I'm waiting for the next Splinter Cell game starring Sam Fisher as Cooking Mama.
The next Splinter Cell game is going to be a kart racing game. You race against terrorists in the dark. Clearly, the fact that you guys are laughing that much, you haven't read. It's a Penny Arcade from like 6 years ago.
Oh well. It was funny. But yeah, so I played, in addition to the 3DS, I played some action RPGs at PAX East.
Diablo.
I didn't play Diablo. Saved that for BlizzCon. No Diablo. Bad Steven.
Diablo.
I played the two big games that I had a chance to talk with the PR folks with were Bastion, which is the action RPG coming out of Supergiant Games this summer. And I played Dungeon Siege 3, which is coming out of Obsidian also this I guess it's not technically summer. May 31st is the date that they have right now. And they're very different. Who do we want to hear about first? What game do we want to hear about first?
Dungeon Siege.
Bastion, Greg Kasavin is the man.
Okay, so yes. Oh, well, I'll just say a quick note. Greg Kasavin is a pretty rad dude. He was a very. I got the chance to talk to him. And after I played the demo for the game, and he's pretty awesome. He used to work at, for those of you who aren't aware, he used to work at GameSpot as editor in chief. Then he moved to EA LA, I believe, as part of the Command and Conquer series. And then he and a couple of folks from EA LA decided that they didn't really like what they were like the very separate nature of the development structure in the studio, and wanted to make a game together in their own way. And so that's how they formed Supergiant Games, and Bastion is their first game. And it's pretty cool. The gist of it from what I played in the demo is that you are, air quotes, the kid. That is your character. There's not a whole lot of exposition as to why he is where he is, or what is going on in the world, but essentially the world has had some cataclysmic event, and you have to go to the Bastion, which is where everyone said they would meet if something bad were to happen. And so the reason you know this is because there's this awesome interactive narrator in the game. And it basically, in this really gruff voice, he'll be like, so the kid woke up. And so like you'll move, like you start off, you're asleep on a bed in your room or whatever. And then once you move the control stick, you get up, and it says the kid wakes up and left his house for the Bastion. He's describing kind of what's going on as you play. And it's really funny because there's one time I accidentally rolled off the edge of the stage. And then the narrator said, and the kid plummeted to his death. No, I'm just kidding. And then you respawn on the stage. And so, you can, you'll be, walking around the level, it's like, and then some slimes came up and attacked. I don't know. It's a really, the guy's name is Logan.
Steven wants to try this game.
It's pretty cool. The guy's name is Logan. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but this really amazing narration, and it follows you through the whole game. And so there's you can a whole bunch of enemies may just spawn, and you can totally fight them. Or if you run past them, they'll say, and the kid ran past his enemies. He knew what he had to do, or something like that. So it's kind of interesting to see.
No, I mean, this is something that's been developed in sports games for years, being able to tell what's going on. And I think it's great that they're doing the system. That sounds amazing. I would love to see, going back to EA, these guys from EA LA, the guys from EA Vancouver or EA Tiburon in Florida that do the sports games work on a system like that for an RPG, because that sounds amazing.
Do you really want it to sound like that, though? Oh my god, the Black Mage is going to use ice.
No, I mean, like it's
And
not.
then
It's clearly it's not
Rob,
like that in depth. But
Rob,
It's not your every action. It's just like
It's
you know,
Rob,
you're playing
No,
you're playing Diablo, and it's like the rogue entered the rogue encampment.
I'm talking to Rob. Was the last sports game you played like NFL Game Day '98?
They still sound like that. I can
No,
still hear
they
the brakes.
don't.
I can still hear the brakes.
Then
yeah, but they're better. It's a lot better. I don't play
better.
sports games,
It's
but, like I watch my friends
Putting
play a
dramatic
lot.
effect, you guys.
Whatever. Anyways. Another example is I mean, like the I was talking to Greg Savin, and he was like, we really didn't want to take players out of the, we didn't want story to interrupt the play experience. And so when you finally get to the Bastion in the demo, which is, the first probably 10 minutes of the game. So there's really no spoilers here. There's not even any great plot exposition that goes on during the demo. You go and you see you see this character who is the narrator, and you walk, and he says, like, finally the kid arrived at the Bastion, and he, and then so you go up and you press, I forget what button it is, to talk to him, and he says, and I told the kid that he had to move on and, like, go find the rest of the shards. But, like, there's no, like, it's just like a little quest thing pops up and it says, like, quest completed. But instead of, like, directly interacting with this character, he's just kind of like narrating what happened in your conversation. So there's this tremendous sense of humor. And that's just like, that's, the kind of ground level, that's the groundwork that they laid for the world. All of the art in the game is hand painted, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. The world kind of like comes up as you're walking through it. And it's I think they really succeeded with the art style. And I think the most important is the gameplay. And so it's a very, I wouldn't say that it's a standard action RPG. It's not loot driven. It's basically you have a select few weapons. I think that he said that there would be over 10 weapons that you will receive over the course of the game. And the 3 weapons that I had access to in the demo were the hammer, which is kind of your standard melee weapon, a repeater, which is a kind of distance gun that you're able to just kind of like either shoot off a bunch of rounds or whatever, and then you have to reload, or the bow and arrow, which you have to charge. And each of these gave a really different kind of experience with how you were doing. So like the repeater is, you can, it's not very powerful, but you have a lot of ammunition before you have to reload. And it is, very fast paced. Whereas when you have the bow, you press, like X or B, whatever button you have it assigned to, and you have to hold it down to charge up a shot, and it'll auto target the nearest, like the nearest enemy or the nearest, thing. Which, is really nice, and you can strafe around them without having to actually aim, which was really cool. But anyway, so there's, the weapons kind of create this very different play style, and it encourages experimentation. So like, do you want you could play with the repeater and the bow, maybe that'll work out for you, or, maybe you prefer to keep your distance and like have the bow and arrow as your main weapon. And then once an enemy gets too close, you want the hammer. And there are a couple of different, like there are skills that you will obviously pick up in the game. They have a kind of nifty thing where instead of equipment, I think there may also be equipment in the game, but from what I've seen, instead of what appears to be equipment, you get potions, which you don't actively use, but instead I will augment your character. So like one will increase your critical hit chance, and one will, increase the amount of health you have, the max health. And you can like swap these out at, I don't know what the name of the building is, but there's like a potions building, and there's a,
potions.
And I think it's actually, they're called tonics, but there's a tonics building, and there's a weapons and armor building. And so it just, I was really, kind of, it's not the most, let's say, original game with its gameplay, but it does, like between the narration and I think that the variation that you get in weapons and skills and potions and kind of how you choose to build your character, even though they're, aside from leveling up, there don't seem to be very many stats, is the sort of, it seems like it will become this very kind of catered, to you, this experience catered to you. And I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, hopefully, that's coming out. I think one of our news stories is that Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment is bringing that. So that's coming to XBLA this summer. And a PC version is gonna come out later this year. And so I was actually playing on a PC with an Xbox controller. They said they're working on their PC controls now. And so, hopefully, I'm assuming a demo will come out soon. And I'd say, keep an eye on that because it's a pretty cool game. And yeah, hopefully I asked them about if they would be on the podcast. So hopefully we could get Greg Kasavin or one of the other folks from there on at some point.
It would be awesome to talk to Greg Kasavin. It would be
pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really liked that site since he left.
Yep.
Word.
All right, so what else did he see? Because we're getting a little long.
So, yeah,
too.
Right. Sorry. So Dungeon Siege 3 is I don't want to say bad, but it's the opposite of this kind of new take on the action RPG that Bastion seemed to provide. Dungeon Siege 3 is
did it suffer from the streamlining bug?
Here, let me just say that I haven't played the first 2 Dungeon Siege games. But it's essentially, but this is kind of the same, if that's what it is, then, this is very much like Diablo. You have 4 characters you can pick from, then they essentially are your character classes. So you have Lucas. The 2 that they're showing now, they haven't announced the other 2 yet, are Lucas, who is this warrior, who is apparently the son of the farmer from the first game, if lore means anything to you, about this, about Dungeon Siege as a series. And then there's Anjali, who is this, I think they call her an Archon, which is basically like the angels of the Dungeon Siege world. And so each character you can play as has, a selection of skills. They have 2 styles, or 2 stances rather, each. So as Lucas, I think I didn't get a chance to play as him. I played as Anjali. As Lucas, you have either a 2-handed, sword dealy, or you have a sword and a shield, and so you can use different, different skills based on that. With Anjali, you have a kind of staff wielding, just kind of close combat sort of thing going on. But if you switch into her Archon form, you shoot fireballs and have recovery magic that you can use and can lay down like fire traps. And so you kind of have your standard like talents and proficiencies and stat. I don't know if there's, I can't remember. I don't think there's stat distribution, but you can pick your skills and upgrade your skills along 2 branching paths. And generally, I had fun playing with it. It's kind of, it seems like it's going to be your kind of standard console action RPG, loot based, very heavily loot based actually. They have a dialogue wheel for your conversations. It does have 4-player co-op, which is pretty cool. I had a
chance to see this at E3 this last year when it was still very early in development. And I think that's what they're going for. I think it's developed by Obsidian. The first 2 games were developed by Gas Powered Games.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a very Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance style game, or Marvel Ultimate Alliance. That sort of 4-player, get your buds together, co-op action RPG. Go.
I say this genuinely when I honestly say I really hope that they don't ship it with 1 million bugs. It seems like it could be a pretty fun hack and slash game. I just don't trust anything from Obsidian because they have an excuse for why every single one of their games is buggy as hell.
I agree, and I don't think they'll run into that issue with this game because
John, always the optimist.
That's what good. Based on what I've seen of Dungeon Siege, it's not nearly as open and it's not nearly as ambitious as some of their other games.
Yeah, they're making some. I mean, it's a dungeon hack. That's what it is.
I mean, essentially, it has some combat, and there are some like choices you can make, but it doesn't seem like this is this sort of thing where you get four people together over Xbox Live or PSN, or fingers crossed PC, because apparently they're still working on their PC controls.
What?
It's definitely meant for consoles. I again played it on a PC with an Xbox 360 controller, but they said pretty much don't touch the PC controls right now. There's a skill is bound to each X, Y, and B on the Xbox controller. Attack is A. Right bumper is interact or pick up loot. You move around with the left stick. Left trigger is guard and roll. If you move
it's Divinity 2.
I haven't played Divinity 2.
When is this game supposed to come out?
Yes,
May 31st.
I was literally about to ask that
because I'm
they
sitting.
Would be foolish.
I think I said this way back during the E3 show. Pray to God that this comes out before Diablo 3. Looks like they made it, but that
if they release this anywhere around Diablo 3, they may as well throw the game in the garbage.
Complete disagree.
I know you completely disagreed with me last year. You were wrong then, and you're wrong now.
This game, despite being a hack and slash, is not targeting the same audience as Diablo.
It feels different. It feels different from Diablo.
But the problem is that no one's really going to care about it.
No, incorrect. You are seeing this from the world of Rob. Rob loves Diablo. Rob loves games that.
Normally, I would not be part of World of Rob, but this is going to be part of World of Rob and Steve because I agree.
Okay. You guys are seeing this from the view of, I really like loot. I really like the depth that Diablo gives. I really like everything that Blizzard puts into this game. I tell you what, you guys are not the mass market target. Square Enix is looking at this game because they purchased the Dungeon Siege franchise. Square Enix now owns it because they think it's a franchise that can be mass marketed. This version from Obsidian is not necessarily targeting us super hardcore RPG folks. The people who play Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the people who loved Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. I worked at a GameStop when Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance came out, and it's not the same audience. It's the kind of game that you would say to your girlfriend, to your wife, to someone who's not as hardcore, hey, would you like to play this game with me? And it's a game that you will enjoy playing as a hardcore gamer, and they will understand as a non-gamer or as a casual gamer.
The one thing I would say about that is the intense fantasy-ness of this, and it seems too almost generic fantasy and almost too hardcore, because I did say I was having fun with it, and I feel like I actually died a couple of times during the demo, and I was really embarrassed because one of the producers of the game was standing over my shoulder and was like, oh, you're about to die, oh. And I could tell that I was just doing poorly, but there's some, you need to strategize with people sometime. There will be the way that you can spec. So let's say I was playing as Anjali, and you have this fire trap spell, and you can spec it so that either it does more, it does burning damage, I think, or it heals characters on it heals friendly characters who are in that thing. So you have to kind of coordinate to send, to drop the fire trap, move Anjali back, and have perhaps Lucas, who's the warrior type, run in there and start hacking and slashing. So I mean, maybe you kind of get into a flow with that. But I'll admit I haven't played the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but they seem a lot more brawly.
They're simpler, and I have a great story about this. My good friend Steven back in Las Vegas. He was playing, I think it was X-Men Legends 2 with our friend Kip, and he goes, yeah, I am beating the crap out of this guy, and he's attacking a wall. He thinks he's the other character.
Can I just make a comment to what John was saying about how he wants us to be mass market? I'm not going to argue with him. Would not argue with him at all. This game will not track on NPD. It won't. It won't.
No, I disagree.
It's not a franchise that anybody knows about or anybody cares about. It's a niche franchise.
Rob, what was Baldur's Gate? What was Baldur's Gate?
I'm telling you right now, the game is not.
What was Baldur? No, answer my question.
It was a game designed by BioWare, and what I'm saying, John. Okay, fine. I will bet you right now. I bet you $10 it doesn't track on MPD. Prove me wrong.
All right.
$10.
All right.
There you go.
It's you heard it here first, kids.
I'm not saying. Please, nobody think that I'm bashing Obsidian for that, but this is not a game that anyone's going to really care about except for hardcore RPG players.
Rob, the difference between I have knowledge that Square Enix is putting dollars into this for marketing.
I haven't seen any, and I don't think it matters.
The game's not out for another 3 months.
2 months.
2.5 months.
That is not a large window. They better market the piss out of it.
No. You don't understand mass market marketing for games. If they're going to hit television and print, they don't want marketing now. They want marketing within 2 or 3 weeks of release, because the average person that's looking for this ad is not going to say, "Oh, I'm excited for this game. Let's go to GameStop and pre-order it." They're going to say, "I'm going to Walmart or Target and I want to buy this game."
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's Dungeon Siege 3.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible game. I'm not saying anything about the quality of the game. I'm just saying I do not think people care.
I mean, here's what I came away with when I was at PAX. I really Dungeon Siege 3 and Bastion are 2 games that occupy essentially the same genre. Essentially, they're both action RPGs. They're both I don't know if I'd say isometric, but they occupy that sort of like move one character around and do that. Do that attacking thing that you do in action RPGs. But I came away decidedly more impressed by Bastion, and I'm certainly not hating on Dungeon Siege, but Bastion seemed to of the 2 that I played, and of course there were other action RPGs at PAX that I might have missed, but of the 2 that I played, there seemed to be a bit more ingenuity coming out of Bastion, like a bit more kind of creativity, and that's certainly not to say that what was I saying? That's certainly not to say that Dungeon Siege is bad, but I just they're different games, certainly. Bastion doesn't have the multiplayer going for it, but yeah. So I mean, those are the 2 games I saw at PAX, and they were fun.
Well, I guess we're losing.
Can we just take what happened to John?
John had to go. He had to go pick.
Oh, he had to go as well.
Yeah, and Steven's
The
gone.
ladies were calling them.
Yeah, see,
Gotcha. I missed John saying.
That's why it's awesome to be single.
As
I go cry into my love pillow.
About
that. So let's do a short news section.
Short news. All right.
Short.
So first on the news agenda for the evening is some new Mass Effect DLC. It's actually, I think it's the final piece of DLC.
Yes, it is.
Called Arrival. And so the blurb from the Mass Effect 2 website is: a deep cover agent is missing in Batarian space after reporting evidence of an imminent Reaper invasion. Shepard must travel to the edge of the galaxy, rescue the agent, and discover the truth behind the arrival. Uncover new research and 3 new achievements in the spectacular new adventure for Mass Effect 2. It's more Mass Effect, some new achievements. It seems like this is the bridge DLC that they were talking about when before Mass Effect 2 came out. I think BioWare has done a pretty solid job with the DLC, keeping Mass Effect 2 going. And so this will be the nice little capstone. And so the Arrival is coming out March 29th. So that's about a week from when this show should go up. It's going to be 560 space bucks, Microsoft or BioWare points, your choice, or $7.99 US on the PS3. So that's some new Mass Effect 2 DLC coming to PSN soon. or actually just released on PSN, is Parasite Eve. So this kind of falls in with the whole and the whole rumors and speculation, obviously. But Third Birthday is coming out pretty soon. Parasite Eve 1 is now on the PSN for $6 or $5.99, whatever. And Parasite Eve 2 is coming soon. At some point in the future, probably before Third Birthday. So I mean, I didn't finish. I don't think I finished Parasite Eve 1 when I was playing it earlier last year, but
I can't finish it. It's so antiquated.
It is kind of antiquated, but for $6, it is kind of it's a little bit more original. I like to play Parasite Eve 2. I have the disc sitting right next to me.
I think a lot of people really hated it. They just said that they didn't.
I think it strays a little bit more from the RPG. I mean, Parasite Eve 1 wasn't even all that RPG, but I think it's a little bit more survival horror than action.
Yeah.
2 is more survival horror. Anyways, so that's we're probably going to have some retro reviews on the site when those come or after those come out. So you maybe stay tuned. And certainly, if you want to get caught up on the Third Birthday, or rather prepare for the Third Birthday release, which is not exactly, is that May, June-ish? It's sometime in the summer.
I honestly can't remember.
Okay, so that's sometime this summer. John, or excuse me.
That would be Kyle.
Yeah. No, I was thinking Rob actually, but Rob or Kyle, Rob or Kyle. What is the longest game title you can think of right
now? What was that Devil Summoner on PlayStation 2? Raido Kuzunoha versus the Army of Abandon or something.
Something like that. Let me throw this at you.
Okay.
Cthulhu Saves the World Super Hyper Enhanced Championship Edition Alpha Diamond DX Plus Alpha Fess HD - Premium Enhanced Game of the Year Collector's Edition (parentheses without avatars exclamation point).
I get what they're going for.
Yeah. So this is Xbox Live indie game. Cthulhu Saves the World is coming. There's a free update coming for the game. With this free update, you get this lovely new title. And so basically they've rebalanced the game. It has a new difficulty mode. It has a bonus dungeon. I think there's new avatar icons. I don't know if I don't forget what the gamer pictures, I think, is the term for that. And there's director commentary. And so, yeah, if you already own the game, the update's free, which is pretty nifty, pretty cool of them. And then if you don't, it's still only $3 on Xbox Live Indie Marketplace. And so we have a review of that. Dennis reviewed the game on the site and gave it a pretty solid review. So definitely check that out if you're interested.
What else you got for us?
What else? Well, we already covered Bastion is coming out this summer on XBLA and later in the year on PC. So that's a little bit of news. And then finally, getting back to the unfortunate earthquake in Japan. The most, I think, minimal bad thing to come out of this is this news story, which is Final Fantasy 11 and 14 servers are temporarily shut down. And so, like in the face of all of this, death and destruction, I think that this is a pretty okay thing for gamers to have to deal with.
Yeah. Nobody should be getting should be getting pissy about this.
Yeah. So I mean, they're shutting down the servers for these games, and actually for outside of RPGs in general, for a lot of games. I know that the Metal Gear Online servers were also shut down, and this is all to save energy because those power plants are no longer active essentially. So there's been rolling blackouts throughout Japan, planned, but just so that they can save that energy. And so for the outage, Square Enix certainly isn't going to begrudge you a national disaster. The service Play Online services for April will be free. So nice of them to do that. But still our hearts do go out. I'm excited to go to Japan in the next week and a half or whatever it is. But it'll be an interesting and changed experience. So our hearts go out to them, and I will certainly have more on what's up over there. Not that it's RPG related at all, but yeah. So if you want more information on those outages, you can check out the news story on our site. There's a link to the Play Online webpage. But right. Dear Rob and dear Kyle and dearly departed, not dead, but John and Steven, is it for news.
All right. Well, Kyle, were you happy to be back on the show again?
Absolutely.
Yep. So I know you're on Witcher 2 review, and I may kill you to get that review. Just throwing that one out there. But we should probably try to get you back on for Witcher 2, because I think that'll be the big RPG to talk about as we go into the summer months.
I hope it's what I was hoping Dragon Age 2 would be.
I'm really excited for it. I mean,
me too. I think it will have that kind of edge that Dragon Age 2 doesn't have. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it. So we got that. We got Human Revolution. So we got lots of RPGs coming in the next couple months. So want to thank everybody again for listening to the podcast. Sorry we went a little long today, but we had important stuff to talk about. Keep on subscribing on the RSS feed. Subscribe to us through iTunes. Keep on giving us good reviews. We really like to hear the feedback. I know it warms my cold, dead heart. So thanks again for all the support, guys, and talk to y'all later.